Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification button not to miss any stories. My name is Daniel Jacks, and this is the chilling tale of David Ray Parker, the Screaming Skull Murderer. David Ray Parker was born on October 7, 1954, in the small town of Vicksburg, Mississippi. Growing up in a tumultuous environment, Parker faced a troubled childhood marked by instability and violence. His family life was fraught with conflict, and these early experiences would shape his future in profound ways. After high school, Parker enlisted in the military, where he served in the United States Army. Following his service, he returned to civilian life and pursued a career in law enforcement, eventually becoming a police officer in the state of Washington. Parker served as a police officer in various jurisdictions, where he was often praised for his dedication to duty. However, beneath the surface, he struggled with deep-seated rage and violent tendencies. It was during this time that Parker would begin to nurture his darker impulses, engaging in increasingly erratic behavior. Despite his position of authority, he was unable to control the violent thoughts that consumed him. By the late 1970s, Parker had transitioned away from law enforcement, but the darkness within him began to manifest in a series of heinous crimes. His first known victim was a young woman named Linda Mae McGee, who disappeared in 1977. Linda was a 19-year-old college student who had been out with friends when she went missing. Her body was discovered weeks later, and the circumstances surrounding her death would set the stage for Parker's violent spree. Linda Mae McGee's disappearance sent shockwaves through her community. As investigators began to piece together her last known movements, they uncovered a series of troubling leads. Witnesses had seen her with a man matching Parker's description shortly before she vanished. Parker, however, managed to evade suspicion. After several weeks of investigation, Linda's body was found in a remote area, hidden under debris. The autopsy revealed that she had been sexually assaulted and brutally murdered. The details of her death were horrific, but Parker's connection to the crime went undetected, allowing him to continue his violent rampage. In 1978, Parker claimed his second victim, Anne Marie Darnell, a 20-year-old waitress. Anne was last seen leaving her workplace late one night. As the investigation into her disappearance unfolded, Parker's name surfaced again. Witnesses reported seeing Anne in the company of a man fitting Parker's description, raising suspicions. Despite the mounting evidence against him, Parker was not apprehended. Anne's body was discovered several weeks later in a wooded area, similarly concealed as Linda Mae McGee's. The autopsy indicated she had suffered the same fate, with signs of assault and strangulation. The community was in panic and police increased patrols, but Parker remained elusive. Parker's murderous spree continued in 1979 with the abduction and murder of Mary Ellen Johnson, a 21-year-old college student. Mary was last seen leaving a bar with a man who matched Parker's appearance. Friends and family reported her missing when she failed to return home. Once again, the investigation led to Parker, but he evaded capture. Mary's body was discovered weeks later, hidden beneath the remnants of a collapsed shed. The brutality of her murder, combined with the similarities to Linda and Anne's cases, prompted law enforcement to realize they were dealing with a serial killer. In 1980, Parker escalated his violence with the murder of Kimberly N. Bragg, a young woman who was just beginning her career as a nurse. Kimberly was last seen leaving a hospital where she worked. The investigation quickly turned to Parker when witnesses described seeing him around the area near the time of her disappearance. Law enforcement finally began to connect the dots. Kimberly's body was found in a secluded location, displaying the same pattern of brutality as the previous murders. Each time, Parker's victims were young women who had been abducted, assaulted, and killed. Despite the mounting evidence against him, David Ray Parker continued to evade law enforcement. However, as the police worked tirelessly to catch the perpetrator, they began to compile a profile of the suspect, which included details of his appearance, behavior, and patterns of violence. In 1981, Parker's luck would run out. A routine traffic stop led to his arrest on unrelated charges. During questioning, detectives began to connect Parker to the unsolved murders. They uncovered physical evidence linking him to the victims, including DNA that had been preserved from the crime scenes. David Ray Parker's trial began in 1982, drawing significant media attention. The prosecution presented a strong case, detailing the gruesome nature of the murders and the overwhelming evidence against him. Witnesses testified about seeing Parker with the victims, and forensic evidence tied him to the scenes of the crimes. Throughout the trial, Parker maintained his innocence, insisting that he was being framed. However, the evidence was insurmountable. The jury deliberated for several days before delivering a guilty verdict. David Ray Parker was sentenced to multiple life terms in prison without the possibility of parole. His case became a landmark example of how a police officer could turn into a brutal serial killer, raising questions about the psychological evaluations of law enforcement personnel. The families of Parker's victims found some solace in the conviction, but the scars of their loss remained. The community was left to grapple with the reality that someone who once held a position of trust could commit such heinous acts. The story of David Ray Parker serves as a chilling reminder of the darkness that can exist beneath the surface of seemingly ordinary lives. His crimes highlighted the need for better mental health support and evaluation within law enforcement agencies. As time passed, Parker remained incarcerated, his name synonymous with one of the most disturbing chapters in the history of crime in Washington state.